Good morning, everyone. Going to wait for a few more people to come on, and then we'll begin. So today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah Bas Bible, Harav Yaakov Tzvi ben David Aryeh, Tzvi Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Sipar Feiga B'Las Baruch, Shana ben Elili, Bela Bas Bible from Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Kayla Bela Bas Henach, Yirmiyahu Chion ben Moshe Eliezer, Sarah Malka Bas Binyamin, and the yahrzeits for today: Rivka Bas Mordechai Cohen, Simcha Kato Bas Avram Sharma. Wish the expected families long life and only simchas. So today, friends, firstly, I'm sure those that have come on have noted the new time, and some people will be coming late because they're still trying to play catch up. But good morning to Michael, to Colin, and to all those that will eventually be joining us this morning. Today we start the final path to God that in Rabbi Sacks's syllabus. And it is something I think that very much goes to the core of Rabbi Sacks's philosophy. So let's have a look at it, and then we'll be able to understand it. So let's just bear in mind the previous one. So previously, you may recall that we were discussing about the idea of being a Kiddush Hashem, that we are God's ambassadors in the world, and therefore we lead by example in our personal conduct and in our national conduct. The tremendous contribution that Jews have made to the world at large. We spoke about it being starting with inward looking and then gradually outward looking, and therefore through the way that we behave in our interpersonal relationships, our godly relationships, our just relationships between ourselves, therefore we naturally will have an impact without us doing anything or broadcasting it. We naturally will be a sanctification of God's name. So let's read what Rabbi Sacks wrote about the idea of responsibility. So if we think about it, we've just mentioned about the responsibility to fulfill a national mission, right? A national mission. And the question is, how do we fulfill a national mission, and a mission of some ambition, if I may say so? Think about it. We are saying that we're God's representatives in the world, and that we are going to be the light to the nations, and that we are going to have a profound impact and influence over not just Jewish people, but over the world over. How do you accomplish that if you are less than 0.25% of the world's population, which is the amount of the statistical error in the census that's taken in China? So let's have a look, and Rabbi Sacks will illuminate for us how to do so. For every Jew today, there are roughly 155 Christians and 120 Muslims. More than 3,000 years later, the words of Moshe in Sefer Devarim remain true. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were numerous other than other peoples, for you were the fewest of peoples. We were then, and we certainly are now. So why did God choose this tiny people for such a great task, to be his witnesses in the world? And I don't know, I would obviously we miss Rabbi Sacks tremendously, but I would wonder why he used the word witnesses, why he chose to use the word witnesses in the world rather than I guess contributors to the world, because we are not bystanders. In any case, the people who fought against the idols of the age in every age, the carriers of his message to humanity. Why are we so few? Why this dissonance between the greatness of the task and the smallness of the people charged with carrying it out, right? Obviously, we could all answer the question. Good morning, Anthony, David, Peter, Rachel, Carol, and all those that are still joining us and finding themselves, finding ourselves at the new time, at the new location. So obviously, if I was to ask you, Anthony, why is it that we are so few in number? You'll tell me, well, what do you want from me, Rabbi? Take a Nazism, take communism, take every ism, and there has been persecution, and we've been kicked from pillar to post over the course of the last 2,000 years. So it's quite, it's a miracle that we still exist, let alone that we are great in number. But that's not the question, and that's not what the point that Rabbi Sacks is making. Rabbi Sacks is saying, why did God in his plan. Everything that happens is with God willing it. So why does God quite happy for us to be small in number with such a great task? If you want to influence the world, or you want to influence anywhere, usually you would have to have a great sphere of influence. You'd have to have a great hand. You'd have to be a player, right? And obviously the best way to do that would be to have a significant number of people at your disposal so that you could ferry them out in all directions. That is what he is wondering. Why did God intentionally make it this way? Nations take censuses on the assumption that there is strength in numbers, says Rabbi Sacks. The larger the people, the stronger it is, right? And that is why it is dangerous to count Jews. If Jews ever believed that their strength lay in numbers, we would give way, God forbid, to despair. In Israel, they were always a minor power surrounded by great empires. In the diaspora everywhere, they were and they are a minority. Where did then Jewish strength lie, if not in our numbers? We've already seen from Rousseau to Mark Twain to Paul Johnson, previous occasions, about the observation over the course of the millennia of the profound influence that the Jewish people and the Jewish story has had on civilization. So the question is, where is our strength? It's certainly not in numbers. So let's find out where it is. The Torah gives an answer of surpassing beauty. God tells Moshe, do not count the Jews. Ask them to give and then count the contributions. In terms of numbers, we are small, but in terms of our contributions, we are vast. In almost every age, Jews are given something special to the world. The Torah, the literature of the prophets, the poetry of Psalms, the rabbinic wisdom of Mishnah Torah and Midrash and Talmud, the oral tradition, the vast medieval library of commentaries and codes, philosophy and mysticism. And then, as the doors of Western society opened, Jews made their mark in one field after another. In business, industry, the arts and sciences, cinema, the media, medicine, law, and almost every field of academic life. We only have to look at COVID to look at Pfizer, which is, of course, we are privileged that it was created through the efforts of a Jew. Amazing story, actually. You should look it up about how they survived the Holocaust, and the descendants from the Holocaust are actually those that have made Pfizer to save the world. Extraordinary story. They revolutionized thought in physics, economics, sociology, and anthropology and psychology. Jews have won Nobel Prizes out of all proportion to our numbers. So how did we do it? The simplest explanation is that to be a Jew is to be asked to give, to contribute, to make a difference, to help them in the monumental task that has engaged Jews since the dawn of our history, to make the world a home for the divine presence, a place of justice, compassion, human dignity, and the sanctity of life. In other words, what Rabbi Sacks is really saying is, if we do what is being asked of us, and there is a huge, expectations and demands that are placed on us through the mitzvot, through the Torah, through the clarion call to action by the Almighty, then as a consequence of that, we naturally are going to bring the divine presence to this world. And as a result of that, therefore, we are going to have a profound impact and influence over the world at large and be a Kiddush Hashem. So it's not really that we need to have campaigns and go out there, like we've had campaigns in the past by various dignitaries and politicians and social activists. We don't need to go out there with banners, demanding and coercing people to live a certain way. It's more by personal example. When people see that they see the vast difference, right? The canyon between the way society conducts itself, the way the degradation in humankind which exists currently, and between the lofty levels of being godly, then all of a sudden people realize, wow, there's something there in the Torah that is relevant to my life. I want to tell you that there is a series. I don't often tell you to watch things, do I? But I'm going to today. And that is, there is a series that is on, pardon, I've lost you. There is a series that is on, it was made by a non-Jewish, and there was a non-Jewish filmmaker. And what he does, he had no connection with the Hasidic community. You may have seen it. I don't know if you have, put in the box. And I saw a few clips of it. I think you can watch it on YouTube, but it's certainly out there to be watched. And he, in the past, has looked at various groups, various different cultures, and he has filmed them to give us an insight into them. He had never heard of Hasidim. And somebody approached him, knowing he did this, and he said, listen, I can get you in. I can get you to be able to have some insight into the Hasidic world. And he thought, what do I know? What do I need this for? Anyways, he did. I think he planned to do 2 or 3 sessions. I watched an interview with him, and in the end, I think he did 7 or 8, and he fell in love. He fell in love. He saw it with all its faults and flaws. Nobody's saying they're perfect. Nobody's perfect. But at the same time, he was given access to pierce the veil and to be able to see what really goes on, and the way, and what he came away with, and this is extraordinary, he came away with an extraordinary appreciation or an inspiration for the way that they care for each other. We take it for granted, the collective responsibility, the social programs that we've got in place. You've got your Jewish Care, you've got this group, you've got that group, you've got Hatzalah. We take it for granted that wherever we are, there is this safety net, there is this hug, this social hug by the Jewish community around us, and we can turn this way and that way. And it's always been there. If you go to Prague, you'll see it as well, with all the various groups and Gemachim and Vadim, and he could not get over the way that people that don't know each other and yet have this innate love one for another, for a stranger, and we all look after each other. And that made an impression on him. In other words, that made an impression on him, despite the fact that they weren't doing it to try to impress him. They were just carrying on business as normal. And that's my point. And that's the point Rabbi Sacks is making, that it's more about the way that we behave. If we live up to our responsibilities as Jews, living a committed life, leading a godly life, then God is brought into this world. This world is elevated, and people will automatically be inspired to follow suit and to follow in our example. Okay, I think that is enough for this morning. I'm conscious of the time, so we will carry on with God tomorrow. I should make mention that, in case you haven't heard, that sadly Jeffrey Grossman passed away yesterday. We're all very sad about it. We did pray for him. He was in our prayers every single day when we read out, when we did the Refuah Shlema prayer. Somebody who was a pillar in our community and gave so much over decades and decades to our community. And details, of course, will be emailed out as to the funeral and shiva arrangements. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmois Le'avas Vayvo Harav Yaakov Tzibin David Aryeh Tzivia Bas Mordechai Avram Ben David Slavin Super Feigel Bas Ruben Baruch Shalom Ben Eleli Ben Bas Vayvo from Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Kayla Ben Bas Hanach Yom Yochia Ben Moshe Eliezer Sam Mark Bas Bin Yomin, as well as the outside for today. Leah Bas Yechezkel Ben Chaya Bas Avram David Alevi Ben Rivka Bas Mordechai Cohen Simcha Ketu Bas Avram Shama Shalchur Yulamon Began Eden Tay Menucha Sam Lachim Balarachamim Yatzrein Besesakan Pavlenamim Vietzot Chayz Shwasamanai Nachlasam Yanuch B'Shalom B'Shkabam V'Namar Amen. Refuah Shlema now. Misha B'Chavzein Rabbi Mishov Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rapesach Chaylim Ma'avu Shanu Mispalim Baburam B'Chazek Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleichem Lachem Alafosam Yishlach Leim Refuah Shlema Neshmayim Lachol Reim B'Soch Shachar Yisrael Rafus Nefesh, Rafus Aguf, Hashabak is my Ribbon and my Ramain. Wish everyone well. Whilst we are sad, we are also recognize and appreciate the tremendous impact that Geoffrey had, and we look forward to perpetuating his legacy with the renewed commitment we have to our community and to each other. Wishing everyone well, keep safe, keep well, look after yourselves, and have a great day.